Today on my desk, man, we have the Vaxee Sora 4K. This was a collab with Ninjutso, and honestly, it was a very surprising collab. And this review was honestly just long overdue. But I wanted to wait to re-record when I had my new camera quality, so here we are. Now, like I said, this is a collab with Ninjutso, and this was a very surprising collab at the end of 2024. And it kind of didn't make sense, but after having the product in hand, I definitely can see why Vaxee wanted to do this. Vaxee was missing more of that traditional claw grip shape in their lineup. They had the NPO1S and a lot of other shapes that work for it, but they're kind of known for making unique shapes and just having a shape that one will work for somebody eventually. You feel me? Like you'll find a shape from Vaxee that you'll like eventually. And I'm glad they have a more traditional feeling shape in their lineup now. It actually is a really well made mouse. It has a lot of the standard Vaxee build quality, the really great coding, the really great side buttons, and just the very well tensioned main clicks. In all honesty, these main clicks are top tier, top notch main clicks. They were using the black shell pink dots, and you can just hear them. Like if you can hear that, very light, very spammable. Like I'm talking about to the point where if you play tag FPS or you just play like a lot of dynamic clicking or static clicking scenarios in Kovacs, you will probably fall in love with these like I did. Like these just are some of the best click feel, just best feeling switches I've used like all last year and so far this year. I haven't really used anything that feels as good as these, and this is also one of the reasons why I kind of come back to using this mouse a lot, because the click feels just unmatched. But next to that though, you do have the ability to fully customize the LOD, the debounce time, and the polling rate. It is 4K hertz out of box, and it comes with a 3395 sensor as well. Now I will say I did have an issue with liftoff distance though. I had to use the Silver Fox from Unusual Way Sports just because they are so thin, and it allowed the sensor to properly track and do what it needs to do. So it eliminated all my liftoff distance issues. So if you are buying a Vaxee mouse, that is something that me personally I have always had an issue with no matter what Vaxee mouse I buy. But you know, I was able to figure it out. Now, outside of that, the one thing I do want to talk about as well is the coding. You know, kind of like how boardzy is really big on side buttons. I'm kind of really big on codings. I feel like coding kind of make or break the mouse. Like, for instance, the G-Wools have a lot of nice shapes, but they just have shit coding, and it's just really hard to use a mouse with a bad coding. That's just my personal opinion. So with the Vaxee coding, it's a really top-notch, really great coding. It's the coding that we have all grown to love and use over the years. But the one problem I have with the Vaxee coding is like this glossy matte coating. It don't really work well for me and my sweaty hands when it becomes a little bit more humid, because I'm in Texas and you know Texas get hot. So summertime hot, computer hot, you know what I'm saying? I'm in an intense game, I'm sweating, door closed, you know, in more humid environments and things like that, it just really don't hold up that well. And I just feel like it's not specifically designed for someone like me who sweats a lot. So I'm going to have to use grips with this mouse eventually. But something like the dark frost, white frost coating from in-game gear works way better for my hands compared to the coating on the Vaxee Sora or just Vaxee mice in general. Now, that's not saying that this is a bad coating at all, because it's not. It's top tier, it's one of the best on the market. But I just prefer something that's a little bit more drier, something a little bit more matte, something that's more comparable to like I said, white frost, dark frost, or even something like the Atlantis mini coating works way better for my hands compared to something like this. And even with the Maya X, is another one of my favorite mice I use, and it has a similar feeling coating to this Vaxee coating, and it's pretty much the same thing for me. It just gets too slippery for like a bar of soap, so it just don't really work out that well. Now, to really talk about the main reason why you guys are here, what shape is better for you? Like, you know what I'm saying? What shape is better? Just kind of compare the Sora 4K to the Sora V2. Now, immediately I would tell you that when using the Sora 4K and the Sora V2, they aren't too far apart from each other. They kind of have a similar structure in terms of hump placement and hump feel. But I will say the main difference between the two is that you will notice with the Sora 4K, it's a little bit wider and flatter, but at its peak, it's a little bit more pointed. So at times when using this mouse, it does feel like it's a little bit more targeted for people who play like more of an aggressive claw sometimes. You can get away with like a relaxed claw feeling on this mouse if that's what you're into, but it feels a little bit better for like an aggressive claw. The curvature of the mouse is flat. For the most part, it's a lot more flat, a lot more safer feeling, and the flare isn't really as aggressive as something on like the XM2, for instance. But overall, this feels like a very diverse mouse, but it just feel like it's very diverse for people who have bigger hands, in my opinion. The Sora V2 just to me feels like a mouse that is just better for people of all hand sizes. So anywhere from like 17 cm, which is like on the smaller end, to medium size and to larger hand sizes like mine's. I just really enjoyed the shape. I play like a fingertip claw hybrid type of grip, and the SORA V2 has been a mouse that always just works really well for that grip. Even with the hump being a little bit more rounder, like you can tell immediately like this hump is a little bit more rounder and just feels a little bit more feeling in hand. You get more of that palm contact with this mouse because it's more of a compact shape. It's slightly smaller, but for the most part it's the same mouse to a certain degree. I would say a better comparison for the SORA 4K isn't even the SORA V2. I feel like it's the XM2. I feel like the SORA 4K is really more of a narrow XM2. If you look at it, the hump design is of the same nature. It's wide, it's flat, just promotes a lot of palm contact to a certain degree. But the main difference is obviously you can just look at it without me having to really do anything. The XM2 is just a wider mouse, and for a lot of people, that wideness, that chunky feeling in hand don't really work that well for people. It just feels too massive, too big. So I feel like if you do have smaller hands, or let's say your fingers aren't as long, something that's a little bit more narrow like the SORA 4K will feel a lot better and a lot more dialed in compared to the XM2. Although personally for me, I use the XM2 a lot just because it feels more free in hand for me. I love how the placement of my hand when I grip it is just naturally just lines up perfectly almost with the sensor, and then it lines up perfectly with the side buttons, and I love the massiveness of the side buttons as well. So it's just a shape that I really have a lot of fun with. But the SORA 4K isn't far off at all for me. I would definitely say the biggest differences is like I said, if you don't like the super wide feeling of the XM2, then the SORA 4K might be for you, you know what I'm saying? But I think the biggest thing that come into play is pricing, depending on where you stay at, because you have two options with the SORA 4K. You can buy it from Ninjutso, or you can buy it from Vaxee. And the mouse is $140. It comes with 4K donk, the 4K donk will include it, and it comes in at 60 grams as well. But it's a very well weight balanced mouse, so you don't really even notice that it's about 60 grams. The XM2 is a mouse that comes in around similar weight, but it has the best performance on the market at the moment, and it's readily available in everywhere. You can get it from Max Gaming, you can get it from Amazon, you can get it from Endgame Gear official website. You know what I'm saying? You have many different options to buy this mouse, and they also have a cheaper version in the 8K version that is like I said, cheaper, offers the same things you get with the wireless version, just with better performance. So when you put stuff in perspective like that, you're really talking about price and things like that when you're buying these mice, because they're too similar to each other to really say that it's such a drastic difference. And just to kind of touch more on a weight aspect, because a lot of people didn't understand what was the point of releasing a SORA 4K shape with a heavier weight. The main reason why was for the pro players. The pro players want heavier mice. It gives them more stability. It helps them overall perform a lot better. So that was kind of the point of Vaxee even collabing with Ninjutso on this. But the weight really isn't the issue. I feel like weight balancing is more important than the weight itself. Like, these two mice infinitely feel more premium and just feel better to use in hand compared to the SORA V2, off the strength that they are very just well built weight balanced mice. You know what I'm saying? They have people tinkering and just getting every fine detail about the mouse perfect, you know what I'm saying? Compared to the SORA V2, which it just kind of feel like it's a very well built mouse, but it just kind of feel like a very well built Chinese mouse. You feel me? It's a solid mouse, a great lightweight shape that works well for everyone. But when you have these type of shapes hitting the market, you have these Chinese mice hitting the market that's advertising 30 grams, 20 grams, and all this other stuff, and then you have these magnesium mice that don't feel as good. Coming to use something that's on the heavier side, that feels more premium, but is very well weight balanced, you really don't notice the weight difference between the shapes. I feel like I perform just as good with something that weighs around 60 grams as I do with something that's lighter, but maybe it's just because I've had a lot of time to use a lot of different shapes in my hand, and I just naturally adjusted to it. But I will say, personally for me, I do still prefer something that's more in line of like the 40 gram to 55 gram mark. I feel like ideally for everyone, if you give me a shape that's around that weight, then typically you can perform decently well with it. Your flicks are quick enough, your target switching is quick enough, your tracking is stable enough, and your mouse control is good enough to handle, I feel like, anywhere from 40 to 55 grams. That's just my personal opinion. But overall, in my opinion, this mouse is for anyone who enjoys the SORA V2 shape possibly, but felt like, man, it's a little bit too small. This is something you can look into. This is for anybody who enjoys the XM2, has a very aggressive or relaxed claw grip, and you feel like the XM2 is a little bit too wide. This also can be good for you too. It's a little bit more narrow and just gives you more of a locked in feeling. And the curvature of it is a little bit more flat, so it's a little bit more comfortable in terms of where you want to place your fingers, where you don't really feel like it's more targeted and you feel like you have to place it in a certain way with some of these shapes. Overall, this is a really solid mouse from Vaxee Ninjutso. Very surprising collab. Very cool to see. I would love to see more companies down the road do more collabs like this, because definitely was very dope to see bringing this shape to life. And in all honesty, you really can't go wrong with this. The only issue I have with it is the price point and the shipping, which is always an issue with Vaxee, but you have the option of buying from the Ninjutso, which I believe offers global shipping. So there's that. So if this mouse is in stock and this is something you was thinking about getting, pull the trigger and get it. This is a really solid mouse, a really top tier performing mouse, and it's in my rotation right now, but I will probably be like modding it to make it to more to my liking, and definitely something that'll get heavy use, more than it's already getting right now. But with that being said, man, it's been your boy Widget. Hope you enjoyed the review. I'm out. Peace.